everyone. So, first of all, can you hear us all? Yeah. So welcome to everyone who's actually in person, and then welcome to the people who are live on Facebook. We're actually streaming. Can you tell I'm a bit nervous? On Barnsley Libraries, the Yorkshire Post, and Sheffield Star. So I actually feel like a famous Taylor Swift on a stage and on live stream. Millie's just said to me, "Oh, it's a bit professional getting filmed," and I was like, "Yes." But for anybody watching it on the live streams, there are all the links for where you can buy the book. And there are all the links for the Barnsley Book Festival information in the comments. And please do let us know. I've got 2 questions for them, Millie.
Yeah, go on.
I've got questions at home for your favourite pudding, because as you will come to learn during this talk, there's lots of puddings in this book, isn't there?
Oh, yes.
And I would also like to know where you're watching from, because I'm very nosy, and as you can tell, I'm from Liverpool. So if there's any from the Northwest, big shout out to you. So Millie, without further ado, we'll talk about your fun and exciting book.
Okay.
So this is the proof copy, but you've all got gorgeous, gorgeous hardbacks in your hands, those in the audience. This is your 22nd book, it's called Same Time Next Week. And I'm not going to lie, it would be untruthful for me to say that this is one of my favourite ones. Like, genuinely, I've read quite a few of yours now. Not all 22, because I like to keep some in the reserve for when I'm bored. But I finished this in hard copy, and then I also listened to an hour of the audiobook this morning because I wanted to see what the audiobook was like. Audiobook lover, definitely. And the audiobook was fabulous as well. Could you just tell me a little bit about your writing process and how it's changed from book 1 to book 22?
It hasn't changed whatsoever. It's still anarchic. I have no plan at all. I sit down knowing that, certainly with this, that I thought, I've got 5 women all going through something. That was it. That was a starting point. Started with one character who was a friend of mine who said, "I've always wanted to be named in a book." And I said, "Well, I'll do it for your 60th birthday then." So I did. That's all I had to start off with. And then I just set off. And I've done that 22 times. And every single time I think, is this the one time where I'm not going to be able to pull it out the bag? And I am so relieved when I get to the last word and think, it's rubbish, but I can pat it into shape. I've got a book. But it doesn't. I've tried doing it with the post-it notes. I've tried doing it planning with getting a really nice pad and making loads of squares and putting all the chat. Can't do it. I just set off. So when anybody says to me, "Oh, I'd love to write a book, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how I'd do it."
Yeah.
I can say, "Well, I don't. I haven't a clue. I've not a clue."
And so books later.
I've always said, we are all like Mary Poppins bags. I didn't know that book was inside me until you start ferreting around inside you. You have no idea what is inside you. Yeah. When I first wrote that one book and I got a 2-book deal, I thought, I don't know what to write for the second book, because my whole life had been geared up to having one book on a shelf. I hadn't a clue what to do for book 2.
And now you've got a rainbow of them.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I'm 30 in 2 years and I'd like a Becky character. So,
okay.
Just throwing that out there. There's some really big themes in this book, and I think this is why I enjoyed it so much. So you've got 5 characters, and the premise of the book, if you're not already aware, is you've got 5 women who join a friendship group, they call it, on a Tuesday night in a local diner. Love Ray. Everybody needs a Ray in their life, especially if he's making you blueberry pies and gooey cookies. So you will all fall in love with Ray. They meet at Ray's diner, and they're all there for different reasons, and it's the same for a lot of us. We find it hard to make friends as we're going through hard times in our life, or it's hard to turn to the people that we most love because they're in the thick of the trenches with us. But there are also problems around menopause and endometriosis discussed in the book. And I'm just wondering how you think, or what you think the importance is for women to have representation, such as women's health issues and problems that we go through from birth to death, and all of that is covered in this. How important you think that representation is in media and in books?
I tended to write about what's kind of going on in the background of my life. So the first book, I was pregnant, and now I'm like, I'm through the menopause, through the other side, but it's the symptoms linger on. Even my partner, who is one of the most considerate men on the planet, said, "I can't remember my mother ever talking about this," and people just shut up, put up and shut up. Certainly when I was in the thick of it, I thought, oh, I'm going through it all right, you know, but because I didn't have hot flushes. I had everything. I couldn't sleep. I haven't slept since 2005. Me and Dracula would get on really well, you know, raving all night, you know, but and I think it's important because certainly with the menopause, I wrote a book a few years ago called Sunshine Over Wildflower Cottage. And the first chapter of this book was about loads of women sitting around with those little fans. Yeah. And my publisher said, can you move this to chapter 2? Because the menopause is not sexy. And I said, well, it will be.
I beg to differ in this book. There are some hot scenes.
Well, yes. So they said, sexy with a small s. And I said, it will be because it's going to explode. I just knew I have got, you know, my finger on the pulse for this sort of stuff. Then suddenly there was, wherever everybody was talking about, everybody and his dog was talking about the menopause. And I almost think that's a little bit counterproductive. There's so much information out there. You don't know what to trust. You don't know if these flashy adverts promising you all sorts of things are real. You don't know if the celebs who are getting paid a fortune to have their names tagged onto these products can be trusted. You just don't know. It's still a minefield. And it was when I saw it marketed as a superpower. And at the time, when I heard this word menopause and being in the same sentence as superpower, I'd not slept. My bags were down to my knees. And I thought, if anything feels less than a superpower, it's this. Now, I've not got a proper job. I fanny about behind a desk. But I used to have a proper job, and I used to have to commute for between 1 hour and 2 hours, depending on what job I had. And I thought, for real women, my mates, etc., who haven't slept, who have this awful, oh my God, I'm going to start sweating, and then it gets worse and worse because the pressure and the anxiety about you sweating and things, all that, they have to get up, they haven't slept, they're commuting for 2 hours, they're dead on their feet, they're doing this full job. It doesn't feel like a superpower. So I wanted to write a book that was about the menopause, not preachy. I wanted to write a book that women, ordinary women like myself, could relate to, could think, that's me there. That's exactly me, and I don't know what to do. And I've had more advice from my mates saying, you want to do this, this is what you should do. Ignore that. Go into B&M, get that magnesium spray for £2. Don't buy that one that you've just bought for 30 quid again, because it doesn't work. And I've learned more from women's friendships. My pal kind of dragged me to an online clinic and said, you need HRT, I can tell. And, you know, I spoke to the doctor when I was on. I said, I just thought all this stuff was normal. And she said, well, it is, but you don't have to put up with it. And I thought, that's it there. That's don't have to put
quoted in the book as well, so it is from your real life.
It is. We don't have to put up with it. I have an HRT patch stuck on my buttock twice a week. I can string sentences together. I've never felt as good. I feel younger and better now than I did about 20 years ago. But of course, what's happening in society is that we are having our children older, you know, and our parents are living older. So we are in a state, a lot of us, where we're squeezed out of our own lives. We're looking after grown-up kids. We're looking after elderly parents. And along comes the menopause to batter us at this point in our lives where we could probably do without it.
Yeah.
And so we've a lot going on. And I just wanted to write for women like me. They're not all going through it. It's not a menopause bore. I don't want women to be defined by the menopause. But also I don't want us to be reduced to, oh, look, you know, oh, God, she's going through the menopause because she can't talk to her. You know, I don't want women to have that at all.
No. So one of the big themes is menopause, and that is how the group starts. But actually, the group ends up talking about everything in life. It's so relatable and so real that you can't help but find yourselves in the characters or find people that you know in life in the characters. And I think that's what I love most about your books. You can see yourself and the people that you love within the stories. One of the things that I saw a lot, and again, it's prevalent at the moment, is the promotion. So they're trying to get this group off the ground, and they're trying to get Ray's Diner on the up and coming in Barnsley, because it's a new place and it's American guy and doesn't really know how to get himself out there with the old doddery ones who used to come to the older one. And what happens is they tell one person who tells another person who tells another person, and suddenly it snowballs into such a massive word of mouth game that any promotion that he could have done was not worth its salt compared to the people that backed him in that diner. Not a massive spoiler, don't worry, because this is all, you obviously know he's going to be fabulous because you'll love him. I am a Ray fan. But what I wanted to ask you is, how do you embrace the Barnsley hive mind, as it were, because your fans are really loyal. Like, we've had people driving from all over the country to see you in Barnsley, but Barnsley, you're from Barnsley, you love Barnsley, you still live in Barnsley, even though you've got a really proper job and you're actually a celebrity. On a stage like Taylor Swift, but still in Barnsley, still love everything that Barnsley stands for. How do you, I suppose what I'm asking is, what do you expect from Barnsley now, or are you just so happy that they're on your journey with you?
Yeah. You were talking about Ray getting word of mouth out there.
Yeah.
When I first started, I was terrified to charge anybody. And a little readers group in Cawthorne said, Birdwell, but the lady was from Cawthorne. Name was called Juliet. She was a lovely woman. And she had this reading group in Birdwell. And she said, will you come, and talk to us? And yeah, absolutely. I talked to anybody, because nobody knew me. And I was, you have to build your own PR up. You can't go straight onto national TV. It's all local press, local radio, etc. And she slid a tenner across the desk. There was about 10 people at this thing, and she went, "You're a professional, you've got to charge." And it was the first time I'd actually felt like a professional. I thought, actually, I am. People were paying me in clotted cream scones. I'd get a bag of them. And but these little old lady groups would buy my books. They'd talk about them. They'd buy an extra copy, send it across the pond to their daughters, their granddaughters in America. They built my career up. Barnsley has built my career up, which is why you've got goodie bags, because I'm just so grateful that they've stayed with me. They know my books better than I do. They'll say, "Remember that one you did about?" And I'm thinking, did I write that? And they know my books better than, and they buy them. They know them better. They still buy them. They turn up at my events, and it's lovely. And I know that they think that I am one of their own, which is lovely, because I am. And I've never dissed Barnsley. I've had it dissed to me, and I've always stood up for it, because I can't stand the fact that people say Barnsley, and you think, have you ever actually been 5 minutes out of the town centre where the lovely countryside is? Have you actually ever been? This here, when all the fountains are going up by the, I just think it's lovely.
It's like Barbados out there when the fountains are on and the sun's out.
It's lovely. It's and you don't get done by the lucky men either. So it's got they're trying to flog you some watches and stuff. It is lovely, and I think Barnsley has done a fantastic job in regenerating itself, because there are so many mining towns out there that have died, and Barnsley hasn't at all. I couldn't believe when this place got built. I thought, where's the press for this? People are pulling libraries down for fun, and we've got a multi-million-pound library, and there was nobody shouting about it at all. They should be banging a massive drum saying, we've got a library. And the one thing that I love is that Barnsley, maybe, to those who do not know, who've never been here, who've never read anything about it, apart from it had some mines in it and a chop, they would sort of say, why on earth would you have a lit fest in Barnsley? And you think, and you can top them all up, of all the creatives that we've got. I think I can't do it with Wakefield, I can't do it with Leeds, they've got a couple. But in Barnsley, we have got so many creatives, musicians. I mean, Kate Rusby was up for a Mercury Prize. You've got Macmillan, Joanne Harris, you've got me, obviously. You've got, so many. You've got Graham, who did all the sculptures there, Ashley Jackson, so many creatives per square foot in Barnsley, far more than any other town. And that's why I'm so glad that this Barnsley Lit Fest has come back, and you think, right, it's come back, it's going to thrive. And that people are coming. The amount of people who came here last year to see me up in the council chambers and thought, well, go and see the market. We'll have a day out. And they came early. And then said afterwards, I didn't think it was going to be like that. I didn't think it was as nice. It was going to be as nice as it was. And I love that. I love the fact that we are educating people about Barnsley.
Yes.
And they're
very
not
welcoming.
Yeah, not everybody lives next door to a muckstack and they've got a mate called Kez. It's just, it's different to how they might imagine, and I love that.
And as the laughter continues, you've got the same banter as Liverpool as well.
Yes.
So I adore Barnsley, and I'm here for good now, much to my mum, who's probably watching, her dismay. But I get that sense of community and friendship in Barnsley, which brings me on to my next question. So there's lots of friendship dynamics in the book. Some are very terse, some are reunited after many years away. I'm talking high school reunions, which cause absolute chaos, but also joy. There are friendships who reignite passions in people that they haven't spoken to for years. And then there are those new kindling ones that save people when they're on the brink of meltdowns and really hard times in their life. But all of that started from going to a new place and putting yourself out there and being brave. I just wonder if you could talk about how people do that first step and be brave and go to new places. Like, you're sat on a stage in front of 100 people plus. And I just wonder if you've got any advice for people who are trying to be brave and find their place in the world, who might be struggling with that.
If they're lonely, it's a viable alternative. What have you got to lose? And there's so many little groups setting up. I think with men, certainly, it's been hard. And they've got these, is it Men with Sheds or something like
Men
that?
in Sheds.
Men in Sheds that did a load of furniture around wherever we are, around here and things, yeah? And it's just that first step. It's just that first step over the threshold. And after that, you're away. But you have to. Nobody can drag you out. It's like you can't, you can lead a horse to water. But you have to just be brave. There was my friend's grandfather was widowed at over 90, and he was still very fit, and joined a walking group, one of those with the big sticks. And it was hard for him, and then they were off. They were off to Spain and everywhere with this group.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was a new lease of life, and the amount of people who it's just that one step. It's just that one step over there, and then you have a cup of coffee, a biscuit with somebody, and that seems to break down the barriers. You just start talking to people, and it's not so bad to go there the next week. But there are so many little groups. I'm sure they've got ones in the library, even learning something. Even it's always a good one, rather than just have to go and mingle, to actually learn something, because then you don't feel as out there. You feel as if there is someone, you're in the same group as everybody else, and you can chat to them next door. So that was easy, wasn't it? Blah, blah. Where are you from? And it just starts with a couple of words.
Yeah. Slight plug for the library is, if you are looking for any crafty groups to learn something, Library Lights will be coming will be coming back soon. Keep your eyes peeled.
Do you want to borrow my HRT patch? Because
I told you I'm nearly 30. Something's going amiss. And speaking of HRT, there's also a menopause project going on in Barnsley Libraries at the minute. So if you are looking for a way to speak to people like these gorgeous ladies in here, meet everyone, there are groups out there, plenty more, not just in the libraries, but I think it's the hardest bit to step over that door, as we see with some of them in this book. But just doing it and ripping the band-aid off, and that first step's the hardest. So it is, I would agree with you on that, but it's so worth it in the end. I had a question about the crime aspect of the book. So Pennine Prowler really made me howl. This little thread of a crime that's historical. It's happened, and some of the characters in the book are associated in different ways. I'm going to ask you straight out, are you ever going to consider writing a crime book for us?
I've been writing it for about 5 years. I was been writing it before Richard Osman even put pen to paper. And now it looks as if I would be following him, but I had this idea for, and it's just time. It's just time. For the last few years, I've been like working, caring for parents, and so now when I've got a bit of time to write a book, I thought, oh, no, I'll write another one, which isn't a crime one. It's there. It's over half done. My heart is in crime. I love crime. My partner will say, we're not watching another programme, are we, about Fred West? I know more about Fred West than Rosemary does. But I'm fascinated. It's not the crime. I'm not into that. It's the psychology.
Yeah.
It's that I'd love to get inside a lunatic's brain just to see how it functions and how you can have no feeling for anybody else at all. I'm fascinated by the whole psychology thing. And usually I've always got a murder in my book or some crime. In fact, weirdly, the crime book that I'm writing has actually got less criminal activity in it than my romantic fiction. But I thought my editor's going to rip the serial killer out of this one, but she said, no,
definitely not.
You can have it. And it is actually based on, if you go on my website and look at the book, the actual about the book, I always write something about the book where I got the idea from. There is a section in there about who inspired this criminal in my story. It's a real story. It was the railway killers, and one of the killers evaded detection for many years. It's a very fascinating story, but I've written it all down. I wanted to put it in the back of that as an epilogue and
we're on 446 pages. No. Can you imagine?
No, but my editor said, no, it's a bit dark. Put it on your website.
Do it as a novella.
Well,
release it as a novella.
No, it's a freebie on the website. So it's just have a look, and then it might be a good idea to read the book first, and then go and have a look and see where I got it from. But it's a very fascinating story.
I really did like the thread of crime. I'm so excited. I thought you were going to be like, no, I'm staying on romance and me lovely women. Yeah. Give me the crime, please, Millie.
Yes, no
Maybe
problem.
one can be called Becky in there.
Yes.
There you go.
Becky gets murdered.
Becky gets murdered. That's fine. That's fine. As long as you don't push me off the stage. You said before you haven't got a real job, which is absolutely preposterous. But it does lead into one of my questions. So Skye, one of our characters, there's 5 main women. Skye loves making bears and she mends bears, which is just so cute, some of the scenes. I could have cried as though I was there collecting that bear. Mel really wants to start a band, and why shouldn't she? And Amanda really wants to bake and turn that into a business. They're all passions and they think they can't or they shouldn't do them and they should have a real job. But you've turned your passion into a real job, even though you say it's not, it definitely is, because you sat here talking about your passion. What would be your advice for people getting rid of that 2-hour commute, following your passion and just embracing it with open arms?
Well, I did it. I had all those jobs, very unfulfilling jobs. There were, I met some great women and it was fantastic fodder and material for me, but I only ever wanted to write books, as simple as that. But I didn't think girls like me from Barnsley got those jobs. Ashamed of that. I didn't have any connections within the industry. It was very London-centric at that time. I'd never been to creative writing class, didn't have a creative writing degree. I just had this passion for wanting to write books. And I think I'm the poster girl for what you can achieve if you put your mind to it, if all the odds are against you. The agent that I approached was getting 300 submissions a week and took on 5 authors a year. But I wanted it that much. I thought, well, she's taking on 5, so I could be one of those 5. I chased it for 15 years. I couldn't let it go. So I never wanted to get to be a very old lady, 80, thinking, well, you've never been on a private jet. How will you feel about that? You've never been to Australia. I could cope with that. But the stinger was, what if you'd never got your name on a book, if you'd never pushed yourself? And round about 40, I was feeling as if I was very unfulfilled. I was feeling, if this is all my life, what's the point? There was nothing really that I wanted. This was before I got pregnant, in case the kids are watching this. You changed my life, kids. You made it all of them. But, and it was, I just knew what I wanted to do. I just couldn't find a way in. It was like my dream job was in this bubble. And of course, I didn't come from a very bohemian background, It was, I think I was about 16 books in before my mum and dad thought, okay, she's got a proper job. We can just relax. Okay, have you got a pension? No. Oh, God. So I had to get a pension just to please my dad and stop him worrying. But I just at 40, I thought, come on, it's now or never, and just started bombarding agents with ideas for stories. And they were, they weren't great at all. They weren't. But I didn't think anybody would be interested in reading about the North, because there was Catherine Cookson and Barry Hines who, had made the North their own, and I was neither. Certainly wasn't on that level. I'm still not. But I couldn't write about the South, and it was only when I embraced my northernness, if you like, and wrote this book based on my own pregnancy diaries about 3 women in Barnsley on the cusp of 40 who get pregnant together, where the agent said to me, this is the one I've been waiting for. The interesting thing was, on book 4, I wrote a book called Here Come the Girls, which is about 4 women who go on a cruise, 17-day cruise. And I wrote a lot of it and sent it off to the publishers. And they said, well, we can't do this one. It's holiday, and you've taken the action away from Barnsley. And it's Barnsley that's selling your books for you. All those years, and it's Barnsley that was selling my books. So that's why I had to write a lot of the action grounded with the relatives that they'd left behind. So they're on a cruise, but a lot of the action is set in Barnsley because they didn't want me to leave that factor out of it, because that's what was selling the books.
We need the Daily Trumpet, don't we?
Yeah.
That's what we want. It's what we love and adore.
It's become an animal I can't control. I get reviews now. Oh, I really love this book, but I've taken a star off because there was no Daily Trump in it.
Well, as I was reading this one, I was like, when's it going to rear its head? No. So you do look for it, to be fair, but that's one of your trademarks, and that's one of the reasons we love your book. So
it's such fun to sell. I'm going to do a whole book of Daily Trumpets.
Oh my God, that will be amazing, actually.
I'm going... because, I'm supporting Yorkshire Cat Rescue, and I'm going to flog the entries so people can pay me 50 quid to get an entry in this. It will be a proper book. 100 for a photograph. I'll tell you how to pose, but it will be like, and I'm going to do that as soon as I've got some time this year. But there will be a whole book of Daily Trumpets coming.
And then finish your crime book.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And do everything. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm
just
teaming
do it
with.
all.
I love it though. That's it. I could split myself in 2 and do all these wonderful projects.
And we'd applaud every single one. So
great.
We're ready. And
buy them because I need a Porsche.
Yes, we're ready. I need a Porsche. Raised Anna is a sanctuary. It becomes a sanctuary for so many of them. Mm-hmm. Have you got anywhere that is like a sanctuary for you? A lot of people would say libraries. A lot of people would say my bed. Yeah. A lot of people would say in between pages of a book. What would yours be?
I've got 2.
Oh, go on.
One that I share. The first is the bath. That's not the sharing one, right? I love a bath on an evening because I can't do anything else in the bath but read and soak. And I've got my Lush. I've got either my Snow Fairy
I love Snow Fairy.
What's the figgy one? It's lovely. Sticky
dates.
Sticky dates.
Stunning.
Whole set of sticky dates
so
for my
good.
birthday. Because my man knows what, what
You've
rocks my
well.
boat. Yeah. So I'm there with my sticky dates all over me, because you have to smear it all over and smell it. And I'm there with a book. That's my sanctuary.
Sounds like the dream.
It's wonderful. I love that. I have an hour just soaking, topping all the water up. Yeah. My water bill is, if I stopped having baths, I could buy me Porsche. And the other one is the cinema. I love the cinema. I love films. I love stories. I love sitting there with my nachos, my cheesy sauce, and I go with the other half. If I go with the pals, I go to Parkway.
Nice.
If I go with the other half, I have to go to Leeds, because he'll say I was 6'3", and wherever we sit in the cinema, somebody always, it can be empty, but someone will sit directly behind him. And he says, I'm 6'3". I've never kicked anybody's seat in my life, but there's somebody behind him who's 4'10" kicking his seat. So we have to go to the swanky one in Leeds where you'd have to be 8'5" to kick his seat.
They're like beds, aren't
They're
they?
beds, and you press your button and you relax and stuff. I have to go there, but I'll go there with my pals.
Are you going to go and see the new Shrek? Are you a
new-
Shrek fan?
Well, I can't. No, it's not on my.
You've got to get on board, Millie. It's out soon, and I can't wait for it.
I'm going to see Bridget Jones this weekend because I haven't. So no spoilers. I haven't seen it
No,
yet.
I haven't seen it yet either. Speaking of films,
Yes.
if you could turn one of your books into a film, which one would be first and why?
It would be. I wish it could be Christmas every day without with
Oh.
it because I mean they would be impossible to film my books because they've got a cast list bigger than Ben-Hur. But for some reason, this one turned out differently, and there are only 6 people in it. And I thought this was actually the one that would. It's being touted around at the moment again, but there's only 6 people in it. I'm thinking there's 6 people, one place. It'd be really easy to shoot. And then my agent said, well, not a lot happens in it really, does it? And I thought, have you never seen The Royal Family, for God's sake? What happens in that? Nothing. So it's been touted out, but that is the one. It's very special to me. It's one of 2 books that are special. One is coming up that I'll talk about in a bit, but it's one of 2 books that are incredibly special to me. I'll not tell you why, because it's my dad's book. It just rolled out of me. It was the weird and wonderful things that have happened around that book make me think that there is something in the air, and I'm convinced that if any of my books ever make it to be a screen, it would be that one first.
I love that. And you
yeah.
could have a Christmassy launch as well.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah, in the Parkway.
Yes.
We'll tap them up.
That would happen. That would be,
We'll roll in a bed for your partner.
That I promise you now that if that was ever made into a film, and they did offer me the big swanky London, I might have to do it, but we'd have it here as well. We'd have a proper buffet by those people that did the buffet last time I had. Is it White Rose Tea Rooms? We'd have them. So if you're listening, you're lined up. We'd have red carpets. We'd have swank. We'd have fur coats and we would have it over there. We would have a proper do.
I think it's a must. Speaking of can you hear me now? No. Can you all hear me at the back? Yeah. I mean, I'm Scouse and loud, so it's fine. If you can't hear me and Millie on a stage, I think we're in the wrong room, to be honest.
Yes,
we're both
there's
very
something
loud,
wrong there
something wrong.
if you can't hear us too.
Speaking of your next book, do you want to give us a little sneak peek, a little tease?
Yeah. I wish it could be Christmas every day. I wanted to write a sequel, couldn't think how to do it. My agent said, well, you can't go back to the inn because there's a twist, and once people have read that, and I thought, well, I'm not going to do it then if I can't go back to the inn. And then I don't even know why this film was on, because Pete wouldn't have been watching a Hallmark film. But it was on the telly, and I just happened to be passing through for, I don't know why, some reason. And I looked at this film on the screen, which was a Christmassy Hallmark film set on a train. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to do the sister book, 7 people trapped over Christmas, but on a luxury train. So that is done, finished, just editing it now. And I wish it could be Christmas every day. The third line of that, like the bells, the third line is let the bells ring out, and that's what the book will be called. Keep it in the theme. My first book was for my dad. This one's for my mum.
And I think, what is that? And I think we'll end it for our chat there, unless you've got any other exclusives, because that was a brilliant one.
No, I'd like you to talk about the sex scene in that book, because I've never written.
No, seriously though, it shocked me in the best way, because I wasn't expecting it. Nothing too raucous that you'd like, I can't read that on the bus. But, tickled your fancy. I really enjoyed it. But also, then the gifts that she was given after really made me howl, so I was laugh out loud at that.
Yeah. do you know where it came? You know, when the what was it called? The 50 Shades.
Yeah.
After 50 Shades was published, okay, publishers were leaping on the bandwagon, getting hold of all the authors, saying, "Can you knock us up a
Literally.
knock us up?
Literally.
Finish the sentence." I was trying not to say, "Can you knock one out?" And it got turned all wrong. Can you knock out a book that is on this theme, right? Really quickly. And so all these, you know, these sex books were coming out. Nobody asked me. So I thought I was due for an edit going in. So I thought I'm going to write a sex scene in my book. My editor's going to read this and say, pick up the phone. Mill, can you write? Anyway, I got my edit back. There was a big bracket round this sex scene. The word "oh" written at the side. Millie, can we take this out, please? So I don't write gratuitous sex scenes because they don't fit in. Everything I say now is going to sound like an innuendo. It just doesn't fit in. But in this book, it was a weird thing because the character in it, who I think is one of my most favourite characters ever, he's a postman. He's called Pat because he had to be. And he was Irish originally.
I'm so glad you didn't go with the Irish because he's hilarious.
Well, this is the weird thing, okay? In my brain, he was a gentle, like, postman, and he was walking up to, in my brain, he was walking up the path to knock on her door and turned into Liam Gallagher. I don't fancy Liam Gallagher at all. Now, I'm mad for him.
You might well.
He turned into a man who is convinced that Liam Gallagher based his image on him. He's quite spiky, he's quite... And I absolutely loved I'd be
him.
really interested to see what you think about Pat in this story.
All I'll say about Pat is women deserve more. And you should be able to say that to your partner.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. We
yes.
love Pat.
And Pat is very good at more.
And I think we'll leave it there on the sex scene. But
yes.
If anybody's got any questions for Millie, we're now going to open it up to the audience. So if you pop your hands up, we have got a mic that is going to come to you.
You're going to look really daft on live if we're just all sitting there.
I know.
So somebody make a question.
There's no one
Come on.
literally got to say.
You know what we said about that first step? Once you start.
It's not a question as such.
Okay.
But when you were on about your book,
Yes.
and you were on about how many people that you thought would be in that film, all I'm going to say is Rear Window.
Oh,
Because
yes.
for as many people as what is in there,
Yeah.
it's one set.
That's my favourite.
It is mine. It's
That
my favourite
one.
Hitchcock.
And nothing, it's just, isn't it, looking through the window at the building across.
So if he can do it,
Yeah.
you can do it.
Can we ring Jimmy Stewart? Is he available?
Let's get him on the phone. Anyone else? Oh, you're all really shy tonight. The My Scouseness has not rubbed off on you lot enough.
Ask a question, somebody. Be brave. Auntie Helen.
Shut up, what?
You say the way that you write books hasn't changed. Do you have a process that you lock yourself in your cabin, don't come out till you've done a certain number of words, a certain number of events? Or do you just sit there? Some days you might do 10 words, some days you might do 1,000.
Yeah. I don't do that word count thing. You know where they say I've written, you know, only if I'm at the end of, you know, where the deadline is kind of waving in front of my I need to know how many I've done. But no, I just sit down there and write until I'm hungry, or I need the loo, or I need a coffee, and then I get back and think, right, I've done it today. Sometimes, you know, I think I can't wait to write a scene. I can't wait to write it. So I'll end it there on that night. So I'm really excited the next morning when I come to write it. But no, it's all anarchy. I've got all these people are saying, oh, I've written this today and I've written this chapter, blah, blah. The only one thing I can't do is I can't write, some people write the end first and then they skip around. I have to go, you know, linear. I have to write one chapter after another. if I ever get stuck, and this is very rarely, I might skip and go on to another chapter, but I hate that because it messes with my OCD, and I haven't even got OCD. But I like to fill in that gap, and I like to write straight until I get to the end. So that's my only process. I don't write at strange hours. I just sit, like I'm so accustomed to sitting in an office that I will do office hours, and let my partner watch all the antiques programs and stuff.
Lovely.
And then I'll stop. We'll have tea together. Blah blah. But I keep those regular hours. My record for actually working non-stop, because I had a deadline. I started at 9 o'clock in the morning. This was a one-off. I started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, there's no point in me going to bed tonight because I'll not sleep. I have to finish this book, the first draft. And bless him, Pete stayed up with me all night, just making coffee, throwing a pie into the office, opening the door. Midnight, I was still working. That's from 9 o'clock in the morning. Still working at 9 in the morning. He went to bed about 6. Did you get to bed? 9 o'clock the next morning. And I was still working at 3:30 that afternoon, right? And I couldn't see at this point. My eyes were gone, and I'd finished it. And I remember just walking out the office thinking, I need sleep. And my son walked in and went, any chance of a bacon butty? Oh. And you've never heard the word no with as many F's in it in your life. But suffice to say, and I think I slept for about 3 hours because I was so...
Had I been asleep for 3 weeks?
No. It takes me ages. It was a bit like jet lag, writer's lag, wow. I think. But I'd done it. And I think that the tiredness was kind of knocked back by this. Yes, yeah. We've done it. But that was my record. And but no, I don't count words. I just do it. I just do it. I'm not that organised at all. But it works, whatever it is. And this is why I don't lecture. When people say, would you like to do a lecture about, my lectures would be, okay, I'll charge 400 quid. Everybody sit down. Thank you very much for it. All you do is you sit down and you put one word in front of another 100,000 times. Thank you very much. And that would be it. So I don't lecture. I haven't got any of those answers. I haven't got of those, you have, psychic firsts and whatever it is, psychic thirds, and it works for me. Yeah. I love going to other lectures and listening to other authors because we all write very differently. And we've all got writer's envy. I'd love to write like that. And yet some of the planners would love to write like me. But they know they've got a book. I'm in a constant state of anxiety until that first draft is finished. But somehow it works, living on the seat of my pants. When the kids were doing their A-levels and O-levels, so GCSEs or whatever, it's showing me age now, O-levels, 11 plus, whatever it was. And I'd say to them, whatever you do, do not cram. Don't cram. You need to be doing your revision weeks and weeks ahead. The world's biggest hypocrite, because I'm cramming right up to the 11th hour on my stuff at all. But I did confess this afterwards, after they'd done all their exams, that I was just talking a load of bull. But it's that's the way you should do it. But it never worked for them. They crammed and passed them all. So it's obviously something in our genes.
Yeah, definitely.
Anarchy.
Anarchy. Has anybody got any final? The bravery.
Oh, look, they're flowing now.
The bravery. It's the first step.
Canute, it's like a tsunami.
Millie, if you could pick anybody to play the parts in your film,
yes,
who would you pick?
I'd pick me for the romantic female lead, and either Liam Neeson or Jason Momoa for the...
yes.
Do you know, it's the one question I have been asked before, and I have got no idea. And the reason I've got no idea is that all my characters, I can see them. I can see them as clearly as I can you in my brain. I can see the towns, I can see the villages, the rooms. What I can't see are their faces. It's the one thing that's missing. I can see their bodies, I can see, which is very good in the case of Pat and Ray. But I can't see their faces. And so I wouldn't have a clue. I wouldn't have a clue at all. I've sat and thought about it. There was only one book where it was what was it, Queen of Wishful Thinking. And in my brain, I thought, oh, he's Hugh, Lewis is Hugh Jackman in my brain.
Oh.
And it was the clearest I've ever got to a character. And it was, I'd said this in an event, and this woman told me off. She went, oh, don't say that, she said. I've had Nigel Havers in my brain. Ruined it. And it's, so I wouldn't even want to think about it, because our books are personal, aren't they? And they're personalised to us. You go and see a film and you think, well, I wouldn't have cast him as Christian Grey at all. But our books are personal. We've got all the actors and actresses that we want in our heads, so they're all fine-tuned to our fantasies.
I reckon Liam Gallagher would be fine coming and doing a bit of
Liam Gallagher would have to play himself.
Well, he'd
with
have
that.
to, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I wish.
Excellent.
I would love to send him that book. I would really, and I'm figuring, should I be
reckon
brave
you'd
enough to do
Be
it?
brave.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I can't say this, can I? I'll not do it myself. I'm going to send Liam Gallagher this copy. I did with Roy Wood, you know. I wish it could be Christmas. A friend of mine said, he lives round the corner from me in Derbyshire. He's got this old converted pub. Do you want me to give you the address? It's not secret or anything, you know, all the locals know where he lives. So I did. I sent him I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day. I thanked him in the back because this song's been an earworm in my brain. I sent it, full of hope. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. But what I didn't realise until years later, a couple of years later, was I got quite friendly with name drop Susan Holder, who is Noddy Holder's wife, who is a novelist herself. And she said, Roy Wood rang her up and said, do you know this Billy Johnson? And you said, yeah, I do. You should email him. He's very, very shy, is Roy. Very, very shy. I was big mates with Dave Myers, the hairy biker, who died. And I went to Dave's funeral. And I'm sitting here, and there's the aisle, and where you are, Roy Wood. And I thought, I can't. I came out, name drop again, came down. I had to go to my car. I had to cross between Alfie Boe and Roy Wood.
And she thinks she hasn't got a proper job and she's not a celebrity.
So I thought, I can't actually just go, all right, I'm going to have to say something because it's here in my lap. And it would have been a bit crude to take a selfie at it, but I was desperate to, but it would have been too, it wasn't respectful. So I did say to Roy, I just said, I'm the crank that actually sent you that book. And he went, he kind of went, he was just shaking Roy Wood's hand, it was bizarre. It was lovely. And I was talking to Dave's wife, his widow afterwards, Lily, and about this. I was telling her, and she said, Dave would have been absolutely delighted that even in these circumstances that he brought you together. And it was just one of the many weird things that has happened around that book. So I'm going to send him the next one and see this time, because he'll have my face in his brain.
Right, we've got time for one more question, I think.
Sue, lady here.
Was there another one on this side? We'll treat you to one last one after
There's Sue there. You've gone past her. Yes.
Will you be putting your name to the new genre of the crime story? It's a challenge, isn't it? In that, because it's a deviation from what you're already looked for.
Yeah.
Would you take the risk of putting your name to it? Or would you start looking at a new genre under a different author's name?
Well, you'd have to, I think, because it would be like reading an Agatha Christie and then realising it's an E.L. James, and that Hercule Poirot starts to get his kit off. You'd want to throw that book at a wall and say, this is not, because you associate an author with a certain kind of book. However, I did go around thinking, what name would I have? I'd love to have something glam. Do I look like an Alana? I thought, like Alana as a name. But my agent kind of said, when I sent her the book, that it started off as quite hard-hitting, this crime story. And then I started to slip jokes in, because I can't stop myself. And there's not much difference between that book and the other book. So there would be a marked difference. It would be like Catherine Cookson writing under, was it Catherine Marchant? There's a slight difference, a little bit more Mills and Booney, those ones. Yeah. So I would be stupid after saying for that many years I'm writing this crime book and do a Robert Galbraith, what there wasn't selling until somebody said, it's J.K. Rowling. All right, okay, we'll buy the books, you know. So I would be stupid not to cash in on an audience that I already had. Yeah. So I'd have to, you know, I'd have to be called something like John Mills, or I'd swap it. No, that's already been done, isn't it, John Mills? I'd have to swap it round. So it was kind of obvious, but at the same time, there would be a little difference so that people would accept it was a different genre.
There's an author who flits between YA and adult, and they do Laura Stephen for one of them and L.K. Stephen for the other one. Yeah. So you could potentially do initials and then Johnson. Yeah,
well, they like initials
they
because
love an initial.
They like that because it makes people think, it's Sexist Society maybe, that it's a man who's written the crime book, it's more likely to be. But I don't know. You see, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that is the cherry on the cake. That is the thing that I'm most excited about. If I finish this, that is my pudding. That's thinking of the name to go onto this book. And I don't want to think about it too much because I want that excitement. Yeah. It's like being pregnant for 9 months and not wanting to know what flavour you've got. and leaving it right to the last minute to find out if it's a boy or a girl. Yeah. That's the kind of thing that I want. I want to think of that at the end when I've got a book to attach the name to. But watch out for Alana Donson anyway, just in case.
Keep our eyes peeled. I think that's the end of the time, unless there's a sneaky last question. No?
Oh, here's one. Here's one, last one.
I was going to ask if you were going to have a building out one of your books, which you've already answered that, but I just wanted to know, when you do write a book, Millie, do you think of the title first and then the story, or the other way around?
It can be either or. And it's weird because it either comes right at the beginning, and then that's good. That's marvellous, because I like to anchor the title into the story. Yeah. Or with this one, we were holding the printers up. We could not get the title for this one at all. If I read you the lists, and I'm thinking, oh, please don't make my book go out with that title, because it has to be right for us all. And it was weird that we all came up with it. I can't remember who came up with it, but it was really, at the end, this book was so late into printing because we just couldn't get the title right. And I was flicking through the manuscript thinking, you know, I need to embed this into it. It's a fairly simple title to embed into the story because they meet at the same time next week. And it was already there. The title was already in the book and we'd not even seen it. I could have saved myself a load of grey hairs. Yeah. Acid reflux, the lot, stress, it was already there. But yeah, and sometimes I think of them. The Yorkshire Pudding Club was my idea. The Magnificent Mrs. Mayhew was my agent's idea. Queen of Wishful Thinking was mine. Here Come the Girls was my PR guy. He said at the time, because there were song titles, and he said it'll give you an earworm. It'll give people an earworm. Yeah. But then that all kind of died off, the song titles. Then it was that, for instance, which one was it? It was one of the, Afternoon Tea at the Sunflower Cafe was originally going to be called The Woman Who Gave Up Chocolate. And the supermarkets, who have got the publishers really by the publishers' bits, didn't like it. They thought it was too negative. And if the supermarkets don't like it, the publishers want to sell the books to supermarkets. So we had to change it. And at the time, there was a big rollout of really powerful female titles, queens, Mrs., the sisters, women, and so that's why I had a run of titles, that the Queen of Wishful Thinking, the Magnificent Mrs. Mayo, the Perfectly Imperfect Woman. They wanted female-led titles. It's very cyclical. Then that will go, and then something else will be the next best thing. But I really liked The Woman Who Gave Up Chocolate, and but it was great for me because everywhere I went, like people thought, well, we'll tell you what, we'll give you an afternoon tea. So it was marvellous. But I just got so sick of scones. I thought, oh, please don't put another scone. So the book I wrote after that was about cheesecakes because I just wanted a change. But yeah, the titles are a headache. And once you've got them fixed in, like the next one, the train one, because of the history of it, and because it was a lyric in I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day, it was in before I'd even thought of the train. It was in, but even before I thought, oh, that's a shame, because that's a nice title, but I haven't got a story to hang on it. But I have now, so it's a great relief. And all I can say about that is that the bells, I never anticipated how fascinating bells are. And if you look this up when you go home, you might actually realise that I'm not making this up. Look up about the Russians executing a bell. Because they did, the Russians years ago in Peter the Great's time, executed a bell because they thought they had souls, etc. And it's got the same sort of feeling that my dad's book had. All these little facts, everything starts to fit together like a jigsaw that you're not expecting.
Yeah.
I'm not on drugs. They really did. The history of bells, fascinating, and I wasn't expecting that. And then the trains are called bells because they are supposed to be like beautiful women. Even that. So it was just Bell City. It was marvellous. It was everything fitting together in this beautiful big jigsaw puzzle.
We look forward to seeing the bells and the trains.
Yes, you'll all get a bell in your goodie bag.
Oh, love that. We're going to say goodbye to the live feed on Barnsley Libraries, Yorkshire Post and Sheffield Star. So thank you so much for watching. We'll give them a little wave, Millie. Give them a wave.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you. Oh my God. If you want to watch how funny we've been and how fabulous Millie's been, you can rewatch that live stream anytime you want to home. But yeah, thank you for all of those who are watching.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you for coming and sharing the evening with us. It's not dreary, it's just dark. We have been lucky with the rain, fingers crossed. But thank you for coming out on a winter's night nonetheless. And thank you to Millie for being as fabulous and glamorous as ever. I hope you all love this book. She's literally got themed. It will all make sense. The cookies will all make sense, the gooey cookies, when you read the book. But we'd really love to hear how much you love it. So Millie's got a Facebook page.
Yes.
You can tell her all about it. We've got a Facebook, Instagram where you can tell us all about it. If you've taken any pictures tonight, tag us in them because we love them. And we are going to draw the raffle in a few moments. And then downstairs, if you want to buy any further books for gifts, Mother's Day's around the corner and birthdays are endless. There are some more downstairs, but they are limited to whether you can get a free goodie bag with them. So just keep that in mind. And Millie, you'll be signing downstairs as well, won't you? If you want anything personalised.
Yeah, we've got a few goodie bags that are complete, but I've run out of mugs because I've given hundreds away. So if you are unlucky enough not to get a mug, you'll get everything else.
Yeah.
So you'll still have a nice little,
Thank you very much, Millie.
Thank you.